Sweden's political landscape has been dramatically reshaped by the rise of the right-wing Sweden Democrats, a party that has capitalized on increasing concerns about immigration, crime, and economic strain. With the party gaining 20.6% of the vote in the most recent election, it is now the second largest in parliament, driving the country towards more restrictive immigration policies, including tougher border controls and deportation centres. This movement is part of a broader backlash across Europe as citizens grow weary of the challenges immigration brings to their nations. The Sweden Democrats, founded in 1988 as a far-right fringe group, have transformed under the leadership of Jimmy Åkesson. Since 2005, they have adopted a more populist approach, focusing heavily on the dangers of unchecked immigration. Their rise coincides with growing fears about the impact of immigration on Sweden's social fabric, with many Swedes blaming immigrants for rising crime rates, economic pressures, and the erosion of their once harmonious society. For many Swedes, the influx of immigrants is seen as the root of Sweden's problems. Once regarded as one of the safest countries in the world, Sweden has seen a sharp rise in gang violence, bombings, and youth crime, which is often blamed on poorly integrated immigrant communities. Citizens point to overcrowded schools, hospitals, and housing shortages, claiming that the welfare system is buckling under the strain. They believe Sweden's generous policies have allowed too many immigrants to enter the country, leading to cultural clashes, divided communities, and economic downturns. Sweden, once lauded for its progressive and welcoming immigration policies, has now become a symbol of how unchecked migration can unravel a nation. Foreign-born citizens now make up 20% of the population, and integration efforts have largely failed. This has led to widespread frustration, with many Swedes believing their country is no longer safe or prosperous. Gang-related killings have surged, and some neighborhoods are now controlled by criminal gangs, making them dangerous for police and emergency services to enter. The term no-go zones has become synonymous with these areas, highlighting how the country is losing control of its own streets. Faced with these realities, Sweden has taken a hard stance on immigration. The country, once known for its open arms, is now implementing some of the strictest immigration policies in Europe. The government has introduced tougher border checks, deportation centres, and more rigorous asylum procedures. Critics of immigration argue that these measures are long overdue, necessary to preserve Sweden's culture, security, and welfare system. Johan Martinsson, a political scientist from the University of Gothenburg, points out that the Sweden Democrats' success is largely driven by fears over the changing demographics and the rising number of asylum seekers. Swedish workers, feeling threatened by competition from low-wage immigrant labour, have rallied behind the party's anti-immigration platform. In the latest election, the Sweden Democrats reached an unprecedented 20.5% of the vote, a clear indication that the public is demanding stricter immigration controls. Their once radical views on immigration have become mainstream, influencing the broader right-wing bloc and reshaping Sweden's political landscape. The Sweden Democrats have not shied away from bold and controversial tactics to drive home their message. From anti-immigration posters in Stockholm to leafleting on the Greek island of Lesbos, discouraging refugees from seeking asylum in Sweden, the party has effectively stirred public debate. This bold approach has forced other political parties to confront the immigration issue head-on, further polarising the nation. This rise in anti-immigration sentiment is not confined to Sweden. Across Europe, populist and nationalist parties are gaining ground as citizens lose faith in traditional politics and demand stricter immigration controls. Even in Sweden, a country long seen as a model of openness and tolerance, the public is turning towards parties that advocate for a more restrictive stance on immigration. Many Swedes believe their nation has become a cautionary tale, showing the consequences of unregulated immigration. The Sweden Democrats have harnessed these fears, pushing the government to implement plans for detention centres, more deportations, and stricter asylum laws. As of 2024, the government is rolling out special reception centres that will closely monitor asylum seekers, limiting their freedom of movement and ensuring stricter oversight. Return centres for rejected asylum seekers are also being expanded, with the government allocating billions of kroner to these efforts. The shift in policy marks a firm stand against immigration, with officials determined to reduce the flow of new arrivals and prioritise the return of those who don't meet the criteria for asylum. In recent years, Sweden has also aligned its immigration policies with stricter EU standards, further cutting back on benefits for asylum seekers and introducing more stringent identity checks at the border. These measures have led to a sharp drop in asylum applications, signalling that Sweden is no longer the welcoming haven it once was. The government expects this trend to continue, seeing it as essential to preserving Sweden's welfare system and maintaining social order. Sweden's dramatic turn against immigration has sent ripples across Europe, with other countries watching closely to see if these policies can reverse the problems caused by mass migration. Once a shining example of a generous welfare state, Sweden has been forced to make tough choices to preserve its future. For many Swedes, the dream of a safe and prosperous nation has been shattered by the consequences of unchecked immigration, and they are now looking to stricter policies to restore stability.